You're listening to an episode recorded during the time Innovation Fuel was part of University Canada West. We are proud and grateful for the work we've done together, and we want to thank the university for being in our podcast. We are now excited to continue the journey of Innovation Fuel into its next chapter. Thanks for listening.
You're listening to Innovation Fuel, a business podcast by University Canada West.
Bringing you fantastic stories from accomplished entrepreneurs and key industry professionals. Let's explore the entrepreneurial world through local businesses and our university community. Hi, Gelareh. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Dave?
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Gelareh, you know something? What really gets to the heart of what I love about teaching and being at UCW and other institutions is the success students have. I really want to see them have success and, finding the right job in that element. But the other piece that really connects with me, because I'm an entrepreneur, is finding an entrepreneurial opportunity and having success with that entrepreneurial opportunity and finding a direction forward with that. So that really gets me really excited.
Exactly. And that's why the reason that I took this job, to make sure our student will be successful in their journey. And I have some good news today for you, because we're going to have one of our UCW alumni entrepreneur that's successful. He was your student, Dave.
Mine?
Yes. We want to welcome Ekaose Mon-John Nwadiani, CEO of HybisBrands. Welcome, AKA.
Hi, Gelareh. Yes. We're here again for another episode of Innovation Fuel, brought to you by University Canada West. Yes, we have a very special guest here today, and a special guest that I actually have a connection with because he was one of my students a very long time ago at University Canada West. He took my e-commerce course. And so before we get into our discussion with our friend, EK, let's welcome Ekaose. And yes, Ekaose, tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about your background.
Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I really appreciate it. My name is Ekaose Mon-John Nwadiani. I'm formerly called Ekaose. I've been in the sales industry for about 10 years now. When I got out of uni, I started my entrepreneurship journey. It was an interesting one a couple of years back. That's in 2014. I've always had the breed of entrepreneurship. I have a background in economics and statistics and an MBA from University Canada West. I've been in the sales industry for a while. I've worked in marketing technology, consulting, finance, tech sales, until I started my own business. I've been in the food and beverage industry for about 3 years now. I've started a couple of businesses and, failed and and have a lot of stories behind them. I'm originally from Nigeria. My mission is to be able to, introduce amazing, cultural products that are inspired by my heritage or my culture back home. I'm married and I have 6-month-old kids. So it's a new journey for me also as a father.
Take us on the journey, Ekaose. Take us on the journey. You're at UCW. You're studying at UCW. You're doing your master's degree. And then all of a sudden, what? You moved on? Did you start the sales journey right away? Or were you conceptualizing the entrepreneurship element? Where did the entrepreneurship pick in?
I had a couple of breaks before we go to serve our country. We used to have this National Youth Service where you go for a 1-year program where you go to learn how to teach and develop your skill after that. So I waited for that program. There was nothing happening. At that point, I had a lot of thinking and I, thought about myself. I evaluated myself. I said, what do I really like to do? I realized that I like to solve business problems, and I was so interested in businesses and how they grow, how they succeed. So that's how I built the drive for entrepreneurship. But during my MBA program, and it's part of what, drove me towards, business, because I have a background in economics and statistics. I could have done a master's in development economics, but I had that drive for business. So I wanted to take it to the next level to understand, not just the practical, but the theoretical part and how to apply some of these processes and, and strategies and how to grow a business and, tune to the right direction, like creating a business plan, understanding the growth of a business, forecasting, statement of income and all of that. So, even during the course of my, MBA, I was a student that I didn't wait till I finished school. So I was already working for CIBC while doing MBA because I had a plan and I was just following through that plan. And, but I was able to manage that in school and also be able to have, my eye on entrepreneurship, one day. And definitely I'm living the dream right now.
That is awesome. Thank you, AK. I have a questions about your biggest challenge of starting your own business while you have a work permit visa after graduation. So how could you start that one? Because I think we heard a lot from our students that there is a very difficult pathway.
Yeah. So people are being discouraged about, if they're allowed to do that, with such status. But for me, during the course of my MBA, I started researching, figuring out ways to be able to take the next step in that direction and asking a couple of questions with people that I know that have been there before me. But it was a challenge because you need to be able to realize, do you have the resources if you want to start a business? Is the bank going to give you a facility? How are you going to be able to structure? Would you get the right support that you need as an immigrant here? But, believing in what you want to do and having the, people who would coach you or lead you in the right direction was the way I was able to approach that, and researching and finding out on how to start a business, how to register a business, what are the opportunities out there for me with that kind of status that I had. But, what I would say is, get out there, find some information, connect with people. LinkedIn is a great channel that you could get connected and people could share their stories or ways of how to do that. I built my confidence and growth strategy in connection and building network. And I will mention UCW also played a part because one of my major mentors when I was in school was brought to UCW for like a show. So they came to talk. They're from the bank at RBC. After the event, I walked up to them and I said, I'm not so sure. I don't know if it was you, Dave, who brought them, but I walked up to them and I told them that I want to learn about the new environment I find myself. I want someone to mentor me. And he was open to that. It took a lot of, I had to knock on the door a lot of times because I would send him emails. I would send him LinkedIn. He wouldn't respond. But he saw my resilient spirit. He saw that I was willing to learn. And then he opened the door for me. And we had meetings. He was a vice president for our BC. His wife was a vice president. And he was a manager too. So, they brought me into their arms and they gave me advice and step and how to, I had quite a few issues along the line. They corrected me in the right direction. So, UCW also created a platform for me to have a stepping stone into entrepreneurship by, bringing people that are mentors to talk to us. And that's how I was able to create great network to learn and how to, overcome such challenge.
So, Ike, when you're going through this journey, okay, so you've got that network, you've got that connection, you got that mentorship. There's still the elevation of, okay, I still probably have to do some stuff to support my PR status as I'm getting graduating elements. So I need to still do that element. But I also have to sort of ideate and create. How did you come to the idea and the conception of where you are now today? How did the idea come to you now within this mentorship?
I would also go back to my first year in UCW, right? Farhad was my professor for Business 101, so I can't remember the code, but he introduced us to business in terms of, the theoretical part. And I remember one strategy that and I still remember the other day I had a coffee with him and I told him, hey, do you remember when you taught me business model canvas? So my approach was to use the business model canvas to outline the idea that I had, right? So I had to look at marketing, I had to look at the revenue, I had to look at, all the factors that make up a business model canvas. And then I looked at it and I said, what problem am I trying to solve? And I realized that this is, something of value that I want to create. And that's how I was able to, do that.
That is awesome. That is great. So to see that we have a great impact on some students to start their own journey. Again, so what is other challenges you face? I mean, to start your own business or marketing your new product to Vancouver market?
you get an idea of the product, right? So you have to flesh out everything. So what kind of product are you creating? What's your target market? What is your core differentiation for a competitive edge ahead of your competition? So I create that product. I look at the features of the product, the attributes of the product, and then we go into R&D and see what are the competition doing, strengths and weaknesses, SWOT analysis. I also want to look at the environment. So I'm using, Pesto to be able to see how do I, if I create this kind of product in the environment, what are the regulations or licenses that I need to be able to operate? What are the factors that affect me as a business in the environment that I'm operating? And then you look at the product. Does it meet the needs of what people are looking at in the market? And then you go into, fleshing out the product from, you need marketing. How are you going to market this product? How are you going to position your product? And then you look at pricing, right? It's like the 4 Ps, basically, right? And then you look at the place, where are you going to market this, right? And that's sort of the kind of approach that I use. But, I also say, UCW MBA program also put me in the right direction, because we were taught this in class, 4 Ps, and how to, position your product, create a new product, and launch in the market. But one of the challenges being able to, you have to believe in the idea that you have, right? And then you have to put those pieces together to be able to make sure what you're creating makes value and creates value out there.
Again, it's some piece that I really want to focus on. It's about the legal aspects of your business, because you said that you are creating a beverage. Of course, there is going to be a lot of regulations around creating the beverage. So what challenge you face?
Being able to have, one of the major challenges, you have to have a facility that meets, food and safety standards to be able to produce your product. So being legal, you have to be able to, you want to get a trademark for the product name or the patent of what your recipe is, making sure that you have, your proper registration of your business. You have a business license. If you're registered a business as a corporation or a sole proprietorship, you have that set, all those, being done to be able to legally operate as a business. And also, for me, when I was creating my hibiscus iced tea, I had to, get involved with a formulator, right, to be able to make sure that we're using the right ingredients that are sourced from the right source, the specification document. You're looking at making sure there's no allergen. It meets standard out there in the beverage industry that would put your product out there. So basically, those steps.
So you're going through all these steps, AK, and you're going through all these steps, and you've gone through this legal element. So you've got a product. To now get that product to market, what are then the challenges to get it to market? How do you get it from, okay, I've went through the R&D, I've got all the licensing, I've got a producer, I'm making it, now I need to get to market?
Yeah, very important. It's a very good question, because once you have a product, you need to get it out of the market, because, you want to be making money out of it to run the business. So for me, I had a business plan, right? And in my business plan, I had those timelines and structures that I had, milestones that I wanted to hit to get the product to market. So I defined my target audience first of all. I looked at what channels I want to be able to sell this product, and I built that in a plan. And then when I looked at those channels, I looked at a day to say, okay, I'm ready to launch my product. I needed funds to be able to, do a lot of marketing, ad spends, product promotions, public relations, press releases. And then you have those, put in place. You need the funds. You need people too sometimes, right? To be able to, share their expertise. Like for me, I use the approach of always getting consultants who could put me in the right direction and come up with a plan to go to market. So we define, our target audience. We define the channels we want to be able to get in, and then we sourced for the required funds to be able to get the product to market. And then we're able to set a launch date and, get the product in the hands of people.
And I want to go back to the one thing I want to talk about, because one of the challenges that we see, especially in Canada, is fund sourcing. Because banks are not very good at giving money unless you have assets in Canada. Maybe it's different in the United States, or a little bit more flexible in the United States. But how did you get the funds to support this operation?
Very good question, because without the funds, you can do some certain things, right? I had a couple of savings too. So I had savings. I had another business running that was able to also fund the company. The banks won't listen to you if you're not in a certain stage in a business. So you get that kind of cut off. So you have to resort to bootstrapping this business, talking to a couple of friends and say, hey, I got this big idea. I can take this to market and I believe I can get X amount of money back and just borrow me. So borrowing from friends and family, also investing my own personal money, how I was able to overcome the financial access to financial facility on a part, because as a startup, the banks want to see the numbers, right? There are very limited programs there that would give you that leap. So one of the biggest challenges as an entrepreneur, as a startup, is that you need access to funds. You want to fund operations, you want to fund marketing, you want to fund sales, right, and all that. So I was able to save up some amount of money and bootstrap and get friends and family to support or borrow you money to take you to the next level.
So Ike, let me go back. You said before you had another business that was able to fund this business. Can you talk a little bit about that business?
When I came here into Canada in 2017, I was so used to my traditional Nigerian food. And when I came in, I met the difference. It was a shock for me not to see that I could easily grab my, go-to food that I was used to. It was a challenge, so as a student, being able to live in Vancouver and traveling all the way to Surrey where the African restaurants or African supermarkets, that was a long journey for me. It takes me about an hour back and forth. So I always discuss this with my friends who come and I'm like, how do you overcome this challenge of having, I didn't know how to cook. So it was worse. So Burger King close to UCW in West Bend was my go-to place. So, but I always had this idea that I will one day want to bring the community together and solve this problem. And in the course of my e-commerce class with you, Dave, I remember you gave us an opportunity to create a business and let's focus on e-commerce. And I had a group of Nigerians in my team, and we came up with a business idea that we could have a platform that could aggregate these African stores in one channel and easily get this product accessible to people in Vancouver, Burnaby, and that was the idea. Being in your class and that, because I already had that problem that I really wanted to solve. We went through the process to creating the business, and we did questionnaire like you asked us to do, and we got feedback to be able to understand what problem we're trying to solve, creating this e-commerce. I had that goal to create a business like that. When after school, I talked to my group members. I said, let's scale this stuff. It's going to work. But they're like, no, too much challenges. I said, okay, I'll let this be. So during the pandemic, people were laid off and people were sent home. I had time to think. And at that point in 2020, I said, this might be the right time for me to solve this problem and fill this gap. And then I created a Nigerian cuisine that is full Nigerian barbecue cuisine that solves that problem. So we make ready to eat Nigerian cuisine, barbecue and cuisine, and we got great feedback, right? I started that in my basement back home. I had to go the right way so that I don't blow up the house. So I had to get all the registration, and then move over to a commissary where we operate now as a virtual restaurant. We're going to be 3 years in April. So I was able to grow that company from $0 and 300% increase every year. Yeah, and that's how we were able to raise some money to be able to fund the other business. So that is running. We have over 5,000 customers. We're currently available on Uber Eats, DoorDash, and we do deliver anywhere in the lower mainland. So we were able to solve that problem because I knew that people had that challenge. Now, people love us so much that they come to Canada, they don't have to miss home food, they can access that. And that's what even gave birth to HybisBrands. Because when I was a kid, my mom used to make a lot of hibiscus beverages for me, and I loved it. So my friends used to look forward to me bringing hibiscus popsicles to school. So when I started the food business, it's called Vansuya, I introduced my mom's recipe to my customers, and they loved it. And I said, you know what? I need to share this with the world. And that's how I created HybisBrands. So it's my childhood dream. I'm sharing with the world, and we're on a mission to build a global beverage that takes inspiration from our Nigerian culture and roots.
I can see you're selling in a lot of restaurants in your website. The store locator is showing that you're selling it in so many restaurants. Grocery shopping and restaurant. That is awesome. I have a question, but do you think that can you sell it in the chain store market, for example, Loblaws?
Yeah. we just got listed with Sobeys. So we're currently in Sobeys, Safeway, and IGA in Alberta. We're starting off that way. Sobeys has been amazing. They have this amazing local program that they can support local producers like us to be able to scale and give us a platform. And that's the way we've been able to get that opportunity. So the goal is to be in other major retail stores like Loblaws and the Jim Patterson groups and Save on Foods, Nestor. The goal is to be in 500 to 1,000 stores by the end of this year. And I know I can do it.
I have another question regarding operations. So do you send your recipe to a manufacturer to create it for you, or you do it by yourself?
Yeah. So what we did as a company is that we created a business plan. Part of our business plan with a short-term goal is to outsource this production to a co-manufacturer. And then we build the revenue and, get to the point of the business where we're able to create our own facility and do production ourselves. So currently, we have sourced this to a co-manufacturer who we've signed an NDA with. We just send our formulas. I go there, run production to see what the production line is and see how the operational process is to be able to understand how my product starts from the formula to finish and packaged. So that's what we're doing right now.
That's awesome story. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is really exciting. And I'm sure after you move out of the co-manufacturing side of things, you're going to expand into different verticals within. I'm sure we can expand other opportunities within the space.
So I remember in my business strategy class in my final year in MBA, I was taught by Michel Vicente. I don't want to matter his first name. But we were taught about expansion strategy. So right now, I'm working on an expansion strategy into different verticals. So it has to do with the product line itself, target audience, and all of that. So hopefully along the line and long term, we're going to be able to, we're currently now planning to support the farmers in Nigeria where we source this hibiscus and then make our own concentrate and also sell to other suppliers and also be like a supplier. So that's also part of the plan for the long term.
So exciting, my friend. So Ike, on this journey, you're on your way, and we love that what you're created here. It's very exciting to hear. But what are some challenges that you might face? And maybe there's some challenge that you can throw out to our students to help you. Maybe in this plan, maybe we can get some ideas.
I would say for my first advice would be to students and, businesses, take advantage of what you have, right? I always tell people, create a business plan. You need to have a plan. You're not just going to wake up and say, hey, I'm just going to start this business. If you go through that part, you're going to have more challenges. It doesn't mean if you have a business plan, you're not going to go through challenges, but it puts you in the right direction because you could easily pivot and, we come back and, rethink and go through another route or create a better way to create a better product or services. One of the challenges is planning, right? If you don't plan, you're going to fail. Right. So you need to be able to plan by creating a business plan, having a forecast, being able to say, okay, how much money do I need to be able to start off as a business to scale, get the right resources, the right system. I run a restaurant. I had to create the right system from inventory management to, taking orders to customer service to operational purchasing and, supply. Right. So, even in the beverage company, dealing with supply chain and, those issues where, during the pandemic, transportation costs are high. You want to be able to make sure that you're having the right costing too. Those are challenges that you're going to face along the line. If you don't do the right costing for your product, you're not going to be making the right margins. You need to understand what margins you're making. And then also being able to go the right route creating your business. So registering your business. Don't do the other route to say, I just want to test it out and see. You have to go to the right route, find mentors that you need, research, read books. Money will be a challenge. So you need to plan very well to make sure you are going to the right way. I was working before and I had to save some money. You could go through that route to, have a plan and say, in 2023 or 2024, I'm going to start my business. What do I need to do? That's saving $200, for example, every month. But I would say the major challenge that you might have is if you don't have a business plan, you're going to fail.
I love it. Is there a challenge that you could throw out to our students today to get them thinking this way? So is there a challenge that you're thinking of right now that we can throw out to our students right now to get them thinking this way? Do you have an individual challenge or a challenge that students need to be thinking about?
Being a business owner, you're going to have challenge doing everything, right? Doing the operations, doing marketing, doing, sales. Every personal challenge is different, but people are scared to take up the next step, right? How do you want to go into entrepreneurship, or you want to just do 9 to 5? Being able to overcome the fear of, doing business is one challenge that people always have, that I would say I want to throw out there. Go out there, be you, have the right resources, and, make it happen. You can do it. Don't let anybody discourage you. You can lay out the right resources and right channels, and you will be successful. You'll be in the right direction to being a successful business person.
Perfect. Let's take it from Nike. Just do it.
I always say that. Yeah.
Thank you, AK. Thank you, Dave. That was another episode of Innovation Fuel. Thank you for listening to Innovation Fuel. We are on all podcast streaming platforms, Google, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts.
Visit our website at www.ucanwest.ca/Innovation Fuel. Also, follow us on Instagram at innovation_fuel.